the second session in the My College, My Campus series. And the first one was a very well received feature in Calcutta Medical College, numerically the first in the seniority, and Chennai is the second, a week younger than Calcutta Medical College. And to take you through the proceedings is Dr. Bhaskaran. Colonel Bhaskaran is a very renowned GA surgeon from Chennai with his upright, who's very upright, calls a spade, and he's been doing a lot of hard work in getting all the doctors from individual medical colleges together, and he's got a long road ahead. He'll be doing a college a week, and I request you all to participate, comment, and contribute to this event. Over to you, Bhaskar.
Thank you. Radha, can I share the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, just check. Invariably, I have some problem with this.
But I am still. Are you able to see me? I don't know. Sorry, some setting I am not able to do it. You cannot see me then.
Yeah, Bhaskar, you need to make it full screen. There's one full screen at the lower.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. No, you click it.
Sir, I am. So you may not be able to see anything. You can see on my voice only.
Yeah. Can you?
No, it's not come full screen, Bhaskar, again.
Okay.
Well, at least whether I am able to share my screen. Let me check.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
Bhaskar.
Okay.
Nice.
Radha, thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to interact with a whole lot of excellent people across various medical colleges. And it is a great pleasure actually interacting with them, and I am learning plenty because of them. As Dr. Radha said, this is our second session. We dealt with Calcutta Medical College, and it is a pleasure to deal with Madras Medical College. And
excuse me, sir.
We have excellent speakers, and I will introduce them subsequently. We raised this issue earlier. Why should we discuss about colleges, especially for medical people? We are not in engineering or business management, where the college where you finish your graduation gives you the first job, and it gives you a jump far too much compared to other colleges. Such things do not happen in medical. Just because you pass out of A college or B college, you are not going to get a PG seat. So you still will have to work for your PG seat. However, at the end of the day, you should have an identity. You should have pride about your institution, and you should have pleasant, happy memories of your college days. I mean, you ask anybody, at the end of the day, they will all say their stay as an undergraduate in XYZ college was the best. Given a chance, they will go back to the college again. So that kind of bonding with the college, with the alumni, can take place only during UG days. So it gives you happiness, it gives you pride, and many a times the colleges give you a route to take, and it gives you the direction in which you can progress, and you can always think about it, laugh about your days in the college. Why Madras Medical College? As Dr. Radha said, it is the second oldest medical colleges. In case there is somebody in Madras Medical College who wants to dispute it, of course, he is most welcome to forward his debate. Unlike Bengalis, who are intellectuals, Chennai people, Tamils in general, are very law-abiding people. In fact, the first queue in India was started in Madras at General Hospital by Dr. K.C. Nambiar in 1938. Apparently, he was a surgeon. He had gone to UK for studying surgery. He was very impressed with the queue system there, and when English people did not bring it back to India, he brought it and ensured that people in General Hospital Madras started queue. So jokes apart, Madras had the first corporation in the world. Our Chennai corporation is the oldest in the world. Even London did not have a corporation. And the first general hospital in India was established in 1664. If you calculate from that, probably General Hospital is the oldest in India. The first eye hospital in India, or in fact, for that matter, in the entire Asia, came up in Chennai. So, as per the available records, we take Madras Medical College is the second oldest medical college in India. However, there are plenty of firsts from Madras Medical College. Does anybody know that Madras Medical College had a branch in Calicut? During Second World War, they wanted to have more doctors, so they opened a branch of Madras Medical College in Calicut. We discussed in Calcutta that the human body dissection by an Indian, Pandit Madhusudan Gupta, was an important landmark wherein Western education came into India. It's said to be a landmark watershed time. But interestingly, the first textbook on materia medica and anatomy by William Warfin in Madras Medical College was published even before Pandit Madhusudan Gupta wrote his books on Calcutta. So now we are justified in having a discussion on Madras Medical College. And I have illustrious alumni, people who are passionate about their college, and they will all discuss about what makes Madras Medical College tick. Let me start with Professor Monasundaram. I hope he has got his system set up. He finished his MBBS in between 72 to 77. Immediately he did MD Pharmacology, and he served in the Department of Pharmacology for good 9 years. So altogether almost 17 years he was in Madras Medical College in one continuous state, and during which time he also did his PhD in neuropharmacology. And after multiple academic and administrative appointments elsewhere, he came back to Madras Medical College and he was a dean till he retired in 2010. Currently, he is vice principal of Bharat Medical College in Chennai. So he was a Senate member, GC member, financial committee member, and multiple official positions he had Tamil Nadu, Dr. MGR Medical University till 2014. He continues to be a member of editorial board of Indian Journal of Pharmacology. Very interestingly, when the 175 years celebration was held in Madras Medical College, he was the dean of Madras Medical College, and he brought out this wonderful souvenir with multiple facts and figures. Very interesting book, and he was the chief editor, and he himself contributed many chapters. I have great pleasure in introducing my colleague and friend, Dr. Sridhar. Dr. Sridhar did his MBBS, MD in Madras Medical College. From 1976 to 1986, he was a student doing MBBS and MD. Shortly after that, he joined as an assistant professor in the Department of Medicine. Then he went to Alumni Institute for his DM Endocrinology, after which he came back to Madras and joined the Endocrinology Department, and he served there for almost 4 years. Then he flew to Abu Dhabi, where he worked as HOD Department of Endocrinology in NMC Hospital, where he stayed up to 2008. So thereafter, Madras, or now as it is called Chennai, beckoned him. He came and joined Myatt Hospitals, and since then he has been head of Department of Endocrinology and Diabetes at Myatt Hospitals, Chennai. He was past president, Endocrine Society of India, Tamil Nadu chapter, was winner of Best Doctor Award from MGR Medical University 2012. He also won the Best Doctor Award in Myatt Hospitals. He has numerous papers in index journals. Dr. Sumant Raman needs no introduction. He did MBBS, DCH, MD from Madras Medical College. He is a well-known, he has a huge Twitter following, especially for his political comments. He is regular on national and Tamil TV as a political analyst. He is an anchor and one of the respected sports commentator in India for so many events, so many sports. And of course, he is a very popular sports quiz master. He is an authority on information technology solutions in healthcare, and that is a field now he is currently working on. One important aspect of Dr. Sumant, he is passionate about social justice, which has made him to write this book, The Profit Conundrum in Healthcare. This is a very nice book. It's a book, it's kind of a condensed version of the book earlier written by Dr. Nandi and others. It's a lovely book. People who are very concerned about the healthcare, corporate healthcare in India are highly recommended to read Dr. Suman's book. Dr. Sri Ratnam, he is an Easter and he has found time to join us. He did his MBBS and MS between 88 to 96. He is currently a consultant thoracic surgeon and senior lecturer in the University Hospitals of Leicester. He has special interest in thoracic oncosurgery. He is the Education Secretary for the Society of Cardiothoracic Surgery for Great Britain and Ireland and Chair of Cardiothoracic Surgical Specialty Board for Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh. He is an examiner for Intercollegiate Specialty Board examination in cardiothoracic surgery. He is a consultant qualification examination, Part 3, and European Board of Cardiothoracic Surgery. So these are all appointments which you do not get easily. So you need to have fellowship in general surgery, which he has. He also has a fellowship of Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh in cardiothoracic surgery. And he is also fellow of Faculty for Surgical Training of Edinburgh. So he obviously is exceedingly passionate about training and he is in the right appointment now. He has also had research studying the proteomics of lung cancer at the University of Birmingham. He has numerous publications. Dr. Gomati Markubantu, we are happy that she is able to join us because I just got a message that she is stuck with a very sick child. She's done her MBBS from Madras Medical College between 90 to 96. She is a consultant pediatrician with special interest in diabetes endocrinology, and she is also an associate medical director at Kettering General Hospital Foundation Trust. She is a lead for diabetes, endocrine, metabolic and audit, guidelines and governance for pediatrics at Ketting's General Hospital. She is a national selection and exam panelist in pediatrics. Very interestingly, she is running an online platform called Inaya Thinnai. That is a place where you meet. Thinnai in Tamil is a place where you sit. So for people who do not know Tamil, it is a place where you meet and discuss. She has started this to support Tamil diaspora during COVID by offering culture, education and heritage-based offerings fortnightly. So Inaya Thinnai videos are available on YouTube. So anybody who is interested can log in and check. She is currently the chair of the East Midlands Children and Young People's Diabetes Network. We also have a final year MBBS student, M. Sarath, as a speaker. He joined Madras Medical College in 2017. He is active in student council and currently holds the position of Tamil Mandram secretary. He is particularly concerned. I mean, it's very strange for a young person like him to be particularly concerned about the effect of COVID on the college and students. I welcome all the speakers and perhaps we can start the ball rolling. I will ask Sri Ratnam to start his presentation.
Thank you, sir, for a lovely introduction. And it is truly humbling to be joining this program with an elite panel, but more importantly, fellow MMCNs who graduated even before I was born, and young and aspiring colleagues who are now joining us, taking us back in time. So it's very interesting to join this My College, My Campus discussion. And my entry into this came rather in a circuitous route due to my discussions with a fellow friend from Calcutta. And Shomit and I have had arguments for hours on end as to whether it is Calcutta or Madras, which is the first medical college. And Shomit's actually in the call this evening. And he said, Shri, there is something happening like this. Will you be interested? And put me in touch with Colonel Bhaskaran. Recently, you would have seen this in the newspapers, MMC celebrating a 200-year-old tree in campus. And the chief minister came, it was all song and dance. And they also created a selfie spot in MMC to get alumni and people to come in. History is important to all of us. And that's one thing which people do not take notice. If you do not know your heritage and culture, you're not going to be proud and it is not going to help you in progressing in your career. I'm very passionate about our history, both the Tamil culture as well as the college. So it ended up on me. Today, the world acknowledges surgery started in India. Shushruta is now universally acknowledged as the father of surgery. This is where MMC sits, on the banks of a lovely river, which we all pinch our nose as we walk past. But Kuam, I understood, is holier than Ganga recently because it came off Lord Shiva's feet when he dropped an arrow. So it is a holy river, which is supposed to be very, very sacred, and MMC sits on the banks of the river. And Madras, if you like, has a very strong heritage of culture, of medicine, everything over the years. But we lost all of that until the Westerners came and reintroduced it. We all remember our college motto, learn to heal, Madras Medical College, 1835. But the college didn't come first, it was the hospital. They both go hand in hand. There is no MMC separate from the Government General Hospital. And why did the college hospital come about? Because till 1644, the British tended to their sick in the ships where the doctors looked after them with their orderlies and assistants. And it was when Elihu Ale, and it was in 1644, they decided they wanted a hospital on this mainland, which was established in Fort St. George. And this moved into various locations before it reached our present site opposite to the central station. So this was commissioned by Edward Bunkley. And interestingly, to offshoot the discussion, this man did the first legal autopsy. He wrote the first sick note. But more importantly, he managed to get somebody who had committed a crime out of jail by saying this man is sick. And he rests in the ordnance fields just opposite MMC between Punamalli High Road and the Flower Bazaar Road. So the hospitals moved to various places. It's been in Armenian Street. Then they decided to have it in the company's garden house, which was in Narimedu or Hawks Hill, which is present-day Central Station. It was constructed by John Sullivan for 42,000 pakoras and formally opened to patients in 1772. Back in the day, the old town and Fort St. George had a wall, and everything outside was the Black Town. That is why today you still have a road called the Wall Tax Road, because people had to pay a tax to go across. And the hospital entrance became the hospital gate. Now, it was Sir Edward Winter who commissioned the opening of the hospital. Madras Medical College was created in Feb 13, 1835. Now, we had this debate as to whether Calcutta came first or Madras came first. One of the historians of Madras, Venkatesh Ramakrishnan, claims they both were supposed to be opened on the same day, but the plaques came late, and that's why Madras was a week older. But you can take that after the discussion over drinks. And the new building was built for med school in 1836 to 37, and the first graduates came out in 1837. This hospital was ever expanding with more blocks added. And at one point in time, Sir A.L. Mudalia, the principal, said, the buildings of Madras Medical College are of so much heritage value and inspiration, it should delight any visitor coming into the city. So this is one of those old archival pictures of MMC in Parktown. Fast forward a few years, the old blocks came down and we had the 2 tower blocks built in 2002. And the only vestiges of the old blocks are the doyens standing outside the hospitals, Dr. Rangachari and Dr. Gurusamy Mudaliar, who unfortunately they are not tending to them, that crows are making them dirty. Now, coming back to MMC and the General Hospital, as the General Hospital developed, there wasn't a structured assistance or training for the orderlies and the assistants. And it was Colonel Mortimer who was the superintendent, created a structured education for them, and he taught them the basics of medical treatment, calling them the volunteers. Now, this became to be called as the Private Medical Hall of Mortimer. And it was in 1835, this was given the decree that it was Madras Medical School. So this was the diagram of the first Madras Medical School premises, which is from the college archives. And Madras Medical College is truly in the center of Madras. I don't know how many of you would have seen this as you go from the Monroe statue towards Paris Corner, Chennai 0 on the bridge. And what sits just over the bridge is our Red Fort and our MMC campus. Our MMC campus has attracted people. it has developed, and this is the first building which takes us all in, the Red Fort building or the anatomy block, where we have the cadaveric dissection upstairs and the histology labs downstairs. Really awe-inspiring lecture theatres, which always, even now, whenever I go to Madras, I go there, and these days it brings a tear to your eye seeing how derelict it is. But equally well, it is very reassuring to hear that this is now going to become a museum of medicine from Madras. Now, the school was attached to the GH. Indians were enrolled into the school from 1842. And in 1850, the college school council went to the government and made a plea to be called as a medical college rather than medical school. So it was in 1850, it took its present moniker, which is Madras Medical College. The first graduates came out in 52 with the award of Graduate of MMC. This was affiliated to the University of Madras till 1988, when the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University came into existence, and we were the first guinea pig batch of that esteemed university. I still vividly remember the late prior Chief Minister, Mr. Karunanidhi, signing the document. That was his first signature as the returning Chief Minister, and he said, "My friend and I had differences of opinion in politics, but this was his last desire, and I'm going to execute it." But it had an impact on the students. As a Madras University graduate, you could walk in anywhere in the world and work internationally, be it Trinidad, be it New Zealand, be it Ireland or England. But MJR University created great havoc to all of us for at least a few years before everybody understood it's the same institution, just under a different oversight. Now, the growth of specialism and various things developed. So we had the Bradfield Surgical Block, which housed all the surgeons. Surgical blocks, I don't know how many of you remember, there will be a beautiful Bradfield block just above Ward 10 as you go into Ward 10. All those things have gone. In 72, the cardiology block was added, which was inaugurated by none other than Helen B. Taussig, a pediatric cardiologist who co-invented the Blalock-Taussig shunt for tetralogy of Fallot. We also had the Lakshmipati block for neurology inaugurated in the same year. MMC is attached to a lot of institutions. The eye hospital, you heard Colonel Bhaskaran say earlier, the Regional Eye Institute is the second eye hospital anywhere in the world after London Moorfield Eye Hospital. It has a spectacular museum of eye diseases, and I would urge anybody in Madras to consider going there. IOG, an institution which is designed to resemble a female pelvis, is one of the iconic obstetric institutions in the city, which again is attached to the Madras Medical College. Just next to the IOG is the Institute of Child Health, which is also there. And this was the only institution to offer postgraduate courses in obstetrics up until 1948. Radiology, Bernard Institute of Radiology is world over renowned for the accomplishments. It was one of the first units in Southeast Asia to get the X-ray unit 5 years after Ronjan made his discovery, the MRI unit. And I would urge you to read Madras Musings and listen to Sriram telling you the tale of how Bernard was sent to see how the X-ray machines work. And he ended up coming back to set up this institute. So that's the quick Google map attached allocations of all the 9 institutions or 10 institutions which are attached to MMC outwit. So it's an interesting journey. You start off with Tandayarpet with the communicable diseases, go to Ananaga Peripheral Hospital, Institute of Mental Health in Keelpok, Institute of Thoracic Diseases in Chetput, the Rehabilitation Unit in KK Nagar, IOG and ICH in Egmore, and the Government Kasturiba Hospital in Triplicane, all come under Madras Medical College, and the trainees rotate through all of this to accumulate the knowledge which this great institution offers us. Today, MMC has moved to the old Central Jail campus, onwards and upwards, so all the old buildings are just staying there as heritage buildings. MMC also has an important role in getting women into medicine in India. I won't go into the details of it. The first women were admitted in 1835 by Mr. Balfour, who also is known to have tried and failed to start medical school teaching in Tamil, Telugu, and Malayalam, which he was a master of, and also supported the Indian independence movement. MMC has produced a lot of good and great, and we'll just touch upon a few because I think various speakers are going to talk about contemporaneous experts. Charles Donovan discovered the Leishmania donovani in Madras. There used to be a plaque next to the superintendent's office in MMC, but I think all of that's been removed now. And Niblick apparently did the first successful GJ for gastric outlet obstruction. We have quite a lot of upper GI surgeons here who can refute or confirm that. He also wrote a treatise on the epidemiology of cancer in India, because India, as you probably know, is a big cancer center for GI cancers. It is debatable whether Ronald Ross did any work on his malaria whilst he was in GH. However, his colleague, John Maitland, has worked in the GH and MMC. He was a senior surgeon and has done a lot of work on filariasis. Coming to Indian greats, Professor Guruswami Mudaliar, the first Indian to be appointed as a professor. Professor Sam Moses, who's called as the father of diabetes, having set up the first diabetic clinic, and was also one of the youngest persons to be promoted into a professorship. Professor A. Venugopal co-founded the Institute of Urology. He was also the honorary director of the Postgraduate Institute of Biomedical Sciences, which is now called ALM Mudaliar's Biomedical Institute in Adayar. He was in the executive committee of MCI. Dr. Kanaka, first female neurosurgeon in Asia, contributed to the field of stereotactic surgery and to perform chronic electrode implantation in the brain. Dr. Sadasivam, cardiothoracic surgeon who's done pioneering work in Madras, who was the first cardiothoracic surgeon, lots of valvular surgery, surgery of tuberculosis. Professor Ramamurthy, who was the president's surgeon, a renowned neurosurgeon who set up the head injury unit and Institute of Neurology. Professor Rangabashir, one of my inspirations and gurus, who inspired me to go to Edinburgh seeking the fellowship and ended up staying here, who set up the first MCH in surgical gastroenterology and developed the unit. Dr. Shanta, who graduated from MMC, became the director of Cancer Institute, who was given the Magsaysay Award for her public service. Now, you heard about Calicut and MMC. So during the war, they needed more doctors. So the British masters set up a second unit in Calicut where teachers from Madras went to teach students. Unfortunately, that was a short-lived expedition because the students after 2 years returned to MMC and actually physically graduated from Madras. Now, Madras Medical College and the General Hospital back in the day used to be called Madras General Hospital, but today the world knows only one MGH, which is the Mass General in the States. But Madras also has a connection to a big institution in the United States, which is the Yale, because Yale was the governor of Madras, and it was the money he made in Madras which he donated to Connecticut to create the Yale University. And there is also some muttering whether the Mass General was inspired on the model of Madras General Hospital. I'm going to finish up with our college anthem. And I started off talking about the 200-year-old tree and the selfie point. That's a selfie point in MMC. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Sri, for a brilliant and short presentation. I would like you to kindly clarify as to the kind of degree or certificate courses that were issued in the beginning, because there has been some confusion as to what kind of degrees or licentiate certificate they had.
So they were initially given LMS, so licentiate of medical services. That's why if you talk about the first lady graduate, she was not a full practicing doctor, so she had to go back to England to get her MBBS.
So the MBBS came after it was affiliated to Madras University.
Later, yes.
So
when it became a formal Madras Medical College.
Okay. So I believe they also had different kinds of trainings. For the Europeans, they had some training which will make them apothecaries. For Indians or natives, they had some other thing which they will earn their earnings as dressers. And probably they had a short course and a long course between 3 years and 5 years. I mean, what were the dynamics? Is it meant for British and English Indians?
So in the initial few years, I'm told it was the natives were not actually allowed to do the whole degree. So if you look at the graduation, the first few years, it was all in 2 years. So when MMC was commissioned as a college in 1852, the first graduates came out immediately in 2 years. That's what the chronicles say. But it was later when Indians were admitted and they were allowed to complete the degree and get the degrees.
Okay, thank you. So you covered a lot of legends who came out of Madras Medical College, and many of them have contributed to the growth of generations of students, be it plastic surgery, neurosurgery, cardiology, diabetes, etc., etc. May I now request Dr. Gomati to talk about the Shakti, the women power you are generally very fond of. You espouse the power of women.
I think you should go take.
We
Dr.
can't
Gomati,
hear
we
us
can't hear
speak.
you.
The Gomti, we can't hear you speak. Please put
Unmute,
your.
please. Unmute, doctor.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can
very
you
well.
hear me?
Yes, we
Oh, so
can.
sorry. I normally speak so loudly that you never need to have a speaker or a mic. But unfortunately, I'm across the globe now. It's been a pleasure to meet all fellow MMCNs here. And we are a land of ancient heritage and culture. In the ancient past, we have treated women equally with great icons of literature and culture like Avayar. We've had women in the administrative roles in the Chola times. However, all of that was lost in the last years. So, at the time of inception of the Madras Medical College, women were not equal to men in the land where we have the Lord Ardhanarishwarar, where he gave half himself to his better half. In those times, the West was no different. Joan Barry was a famous surgeon who lived as a man and died as a woman. She sneaked into medical school disguised as a man and had a glorious surgical career as a man until he died, and the embalmers found out that it was indeed a woman. MMC has a lot of similarities or links with the Edinburgh Royal College of Surgeons. There, when women were admitted, there was such a riot, it was still famously called as the Surgeons' Hall riot. We talked about Mary Shalib, who came to India. She was married to a lawyer and she wanted to help him with his profession. But she was so taken aback by the challenges that women face around health inequalities and the social stigma of going to a male doctor. So, with other women, she was one of the few to join the Madras Medical College. The Surgeon General, who is acknowledged for his creation, for his foresight, Balfour, he also has the museum and the zoological park in Chennai. He paved the way for the women to be admitted into Madras Medical College. But I'm sure it was not an easy riding, as a saying that goes by that a professor had said, I do not have a problem in you walking in the ward, but I will not teach you. Perseverance paid, and she did graduate, and she went on to England, and she was so kind of taken as a pioneer, really, and a motivation for other young women. And she was honored by the Queen, who listened to her story and was knighted by her grandson. She came back to India in 1883, really, and she set up the practice of medicine and the famous hospital for caste and Gosha women, named after Queen Victoria. Krupabai Kisti, the first woman to join MMC, unfortunately could not complete the education because of ill health, and she went on to become a famous writer in personal autobiography as an interwoman and converted as a Christian. Dr. Muthu Lakshmi Reddy, so accomplished that Google had a doodle for her 133rd birthday. She's credited as the first woman graduate of MMC. She's a woman of many firsts, really. She was the first house surgeon, although there has been some debate as to whether she was the first one to complete medicine. She also had a strong political and social side to her. She was the first woman legislator, the first woman alderman. She got elected to the Legislative Assembly. She also had a passion for language and supported Tamil music and Tamil culture. She fought for the Tamil teachers' pay. She actually penned her own experiences. But one thing that we're all proud is that she set up what is now known the famous Adyar Cancer Institute. So it is not a worthy honor when her name was one of the few inscribed in the first flag, which was hosted in Red Fort in 1947. We can name a million inspiring women leaders from MMC, but from our times, the contemporaneous period, I have seen and admired this person who grew too big a stature is Professor Sudha Seshayan. She's an anatomy professor during our days in medical college. She subsequently became the vice chancellor. She helped coordinate the COVID pandemic efforts. She's an editor of anatomy textbooks and a panel editor for the famous Gray's Anatomy book. She's part of the Encyclopedia Britannica translation in Tamil. But more importantly, as the other women I have described, she also had a multifaceted personality. She's world renowned for a passion for Tamil scriptures like Sivapuranam, Tirumantiram, Soundarya Lahari. She's a fantastic orator and debater and well known in the circles of Kamban Kalaham. Women from various areas came and come to MMC like me and drew inspirations which have motivated more young girls to come into medical school. This is one such a bunch of bright faces when MMC moved to the new premises. We all seek higher ground in our home or leave the country, come far afield and accomplish in our own ways. I'm only a small drop that presents on behalf of all the women who come to Madras Medical College and accomplish in their own ways. Thank you for the opportunity, and may each one of them shine their Saktis in this Navratri period and spread the light of Madras Medical College far and wide. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gomati. We have had some discussion on some of the legends who have contributed. Now, I think it will be a little unfair to the legends for their contribution if we just discuss it in a short. I do understand your compulsions. I understand the compulsions of Sri also. So now I will request my colleague Dr. Sridhar. MMC is known for some statues. I remember Sridhar was mentioning me in his MD examination. He was asked, name the statues and what they stand for. So I think that is a kind of question. Those days probably would be given to students. Sridhar, I think you can start. You let unmute yourself.
Yeah. Can I share my slides?
Yeah. You can make it slideshow. Otherwise, carry on like this only.
Can you make it full screen, sir? Full screen. Yeah. Right. Wonderful.
Good evening to all. I thank Dr. Bhaskaran for encouraging me to give this talk. And this is about reminiscences of a proud MMCN. And I was in MMC, as told earlier by Dr. Bhaskaran, for a decade between 76 to 86. And this did help to build up my ethics and make me that much a better doctor. And during this period, I have read about, encountered many luminaries, most of them who impressed me. And I wish to talk about a few of them. And this will be according to their date of birth. And I think some have been covered already. So I'll be as brief as possible. As told earlier by my colleague, this is Dr. M.R. Gurusamy Mudliar. And all those who are in MMC would have seen his statue outside the old Madras Medical College gate. He was born in Bangalore and did his MBBS in MMC. And also, he was the first Indian professor of therapeutics. This was also told earlier. He was a surgeon also and treated important VIPs like Ramana Maharishi. At the same time, he did not neglect the common man. And they, in turn, strongly believed in what is known as his Kairasi. He never believed in free treatment and always took a nominal charge. He was the original percussion expert and made many a diagnosis in this through this method. And besides the statue outside MMC gate, who will recollect that the bridge connecting Keel Park and Chetpet was named after him? And the postal department also released a special cover in his honor. Just like Dr. Gurusamy Modliar's statue was outside the MMC gate, yet another statue adorns the place which was the old GH casualty and the opposite the central station. This was none other than Dr. Rangachari, who was a medical practitioner, surgeon, and gynecologist from Madras Presidency. He was made Deputy Superintendent of the Egmore Women's and Children's Hospital, again the first Indian to hold this post. In 1990, he became a surgeon and served to 22, and then he quit government service and set up a huge private practice in Poonamali High Road, the Harley Street of Chennai. And the doctor initially treated his patients for free, and then he used a cycle, a motorbike, to visit his patients. And late 20s, 1920, he bought a Rolls-Royce Phantom for rupees 52,000. Later, it is said he bought a Pussmoth airplane for rupees 60,000 to travel quickly and easily around the presidency. This got him the appellation of Flying Doctor. Wow, imagine more than a century ago, such things happening. And his statue outside the old casualty opposite Central Station was opened by the then governor of Madras Presidency, Lord Erskine. Third important luminary is none other than Dr. A.L. Modliar, who did his MBBS from MMC and subsequently got his membership in Royal College Obstetrics and subsequently his fellowship. He was one of the earliest Indian professors of obstetrics and gynecology and was the superintendent of the Women and Children's Hospital, and later he became the principal of MMC. He was appointed Vice Chancellor of Madras University, and mind you, he served at this post for a good 27 years. In honor of that, his statue adorns the premises of Madras University overlooking the Marina Beach. And he was chairman of the WHO Executive Board in Geneva, given the Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan by Government of India, and also knighted by the Queen in 1945. He authored the legendary Clinical Obstetrics textbook in 1938, and this book, whom Menon also became a co-editor, has now printed 38 editions. Another luminary was Professor Ratnavelu Subramaniam, born in the year 1912. He was an MBBS, an MD from medicine, and got his fellowship from UK. He was working in the Brompton's Hospital, UK, where he was trained by the legendary cardiologist, Dr. Taussig. He had a most astute knowledge of medicine and was the professor of medicine and Dean MMC till he retired in 1970. Due to his special interest in cardiology, way back in 1970, he gave that what was a huge amount of 2.5 lakhs to help construct the current cardiology block. And he also has several educational institutions in his name. He was a very religious man, and another achievement was he helped resurrect the eastern Gopuram of the most famous Chidambaram Nataraja temple. Another pioneer was Dr. C. Sadasivam, and he was the first cardiothoracic surgeon of Chennai. And he started the MCH in cardiothoracic surgery in 1959 and conferred the Padma Shri Award. He was one of the persons who operated on the legendary C.N. Annadurai, and he was thus honored with the famous Sadasivam Auditorium of the cardiology block, and his bust is there. Dr. Venugopal is already talked about earlier by my colleagues, and I think I will skip that. Another legend whom we should not forget is Arthur Savarimuthu Thambaiah, the teacher of teachers. He was trained in the prestigious St. John's Institute of Dermatology under luminaries such as Downing. And then he joined the Department of Dermatology, and he was the first professor from 61. He was instrumental in developing the first dedicated mycology wing in the country. And because he strongly believed that the skin is a mirror of the medical system and it gives clues in internal medicine, he founded the Madras Club of Cutaneous Medicine. Besides this, he was a strong campaigner against nuclear weapons. Who will forget the legendary KVT sir, who passed away last year around this time? He was one of the greatest Indian physicians and was known as the Aristotle of medicine. His brother was the well-known chest specialist K.V. Krishnasamy. After MB, although he was not an MMC student, he did his MD from MMC and was the first director of the Institute of Internal Medicine. Another proponent of percussion, his clinical skills, teaching prowess was outstanding, and he had scores of medical students who were his admirers. Many awards were given to him, including the B.C. Roy Award and the NBE Award. And he also got a unique award, the Regent of the ICCP from the International College of Chest Physicians. We were most fortunate when Professor KVT was heading the Department of Medicine. An equally illustrious personality, Professor R. Sarachandra, was heading the Department of Surgery. For those who had the privilege of being students, it was a gift literally from God. He was a double FRCS from England, and he was also a glorious teacher whose knowledge was not confined to medicine. He could talk about literally anything on earth, and he was a master of that. At this juncture, I would like to introduce my father, Dr. C.R. Sundarajan, Dr. CRS, as he was well known. He was a pioneer in plastic surgery in South India. And after obtaining his BSc from Presidency College, he did his graduation and post-graduation in surgery in MMC. And he obtained the MCH plastic surgery in 1963. And if I'm not wrong, he was the first MCH in any branch in South India in the year 1963. And he established the first plastic surgery department in the Tamil Nadu in MMC in 63. And the first MCH course in 1966 was established. And he was the head of the department and retired in 1985. And he became the first dean of the Annamalai University Medical College. He has trained more than 50 MCH students all over India, and he was given the B.C. Roy Award in 1989 and was former president of ASI and APSI. He was also instrumental in help constructing the ASI building in Adams Road, Chennai. Following my father's retirement, yet another plastic surgeon, a teacher par excellence, was Dr. U.S. Nayak, who got a rare degree at that time, the FRACS. He was a surgeon par excellence. He used to be most delicate in managing tissues and was an excellent teacher. And he was one of the pioneers of aesthetic plastic surgery. And as a student, I'll sign off again, although it was talked earlier, by being another proud student of the famous NR, otherwise known as Natesan Rangabhashyan. Who will forget the iconic Ward 10 and our numerous classes there and our numerous discussions with this legendary person. As he's already talked about earlier, I will confine myself to saying that he did the first vagotomy surgery in India, if I'm not right. I'm talking in the presence of eminent gastrointestinal surgeons. And he started the first MCH surgical gastroenterology in India, and he was given the B.C. Award twice and also awarded the Padma Bhushan in India. With this, I thank once again Dr. Bhaskaran for giving me this splendid opportunity, and now it's back to them.
Thank you, Sridhar, for an excellent exposition on some of these great teachers mainly. I mean, all of them you covered were teachers. What about people like Dr. Colonel Pandale, who was not a teacher? Can I ask one of the panelists to say something about him? He is the one who started ASI. The oration is in his name.
I have visited the Pandalai nursing home in yesteryear with this huge campus in Punamali High Road, and I came to know that he is a great surgeon. But I think he was well before our time, so I'm not in a position to talk more about him.
There is some history of some of the products of MMC having joined INA, Indian National Army of
Yes.
Subhash Chandra Bose.
I wish to talk about that.
Yeah.
Another close relation of mine was Major General S.C. Alagappan, who was, incidentally, if you see the exam hall of the old MMC, I was very proud to note that he was the Johnston Gold Medalist. That is the best outgoing student in the year 1917, 17.
Wow.
And he subsequently, he got his double of FRCS, and he was principal of Stanley Medical College. Incidentally, he was chairing the selection committee of the government of Tamil Nadu medical courses for a whopping 30 years. He joined Netaji's army in INA, and he served as a major general, and he was posted somewhere in the Far East. Subsequently, the government of India made him an ambassador of India to Indonesia, where he served in this capacity. He also founded two famous financial institutions, the Egmore Benefit Society and the Porasavakam Nidhi.
Okay, thank you. One person I remember is Dr. Lakshmi Sagar, the big name in INA. In hierarchy, she was very high, and she continued as a doctor for INA. And I presume she is a MMC product. I'm a little surprised that Dr. Gomti left her because she probably didn't have time, and she is also a little busy with an emergency. Okay, now let's move on to, I mean, we have been talking about all clinical teachers. What about non-clinical people? People like Professor Cooper and others. Can I ask Dr. Sumant to come in and talk about some of these non-clinical subject teachers? You let us switch on. Sumant, please. You are muted. Sumant, we can't hear you. You are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, we can.
Can I share my screen then?
Sure, definitely.
Okay, is everyone getting my slides?
Yeah, please move to slideshow.
Okay. Are people able to see?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening to all of you on this meeting. And first of all, it's an honor for me to talk about my old institution, which is, of course, the institution for most of us on this call. I'm going to be talking about something slightly different. While I will be touching on some of the eminent non-clinical teachers, essentially during the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on, which was basically, I was there from 1983 to 89 when we completed our internship. And of course, subsequently, I did a post-graduation, but that was in the Institute of Child Health, which is technically Madras Medical College. So in MMC, there were many places which one really needed to know. And the history of some of these places is fascinating. Now, this was a building that really needed no introduction whatsoever. This was the famous Red Fort. This has a history about it. So this was not the original anatomy block of the Madras Medical College. The original anatomy building where anatomy was, department was located was elsewhere. So it was around the 19 1915 period that there was pressure for the anatomy block to move to a new building, and it was around the 1920 period that the Red Fort actually became the anatomy block for the Madras Medical College. And the building itself is believed to be older, but it actually housed the anatomy block on the first floor, and the physiology department was actually on the ground floor of the of this building. Then around 1953-54, the physiology department got its own building nearby, and they moved out. And the ground floor became the histology section, which is what it was when we were studying there and so on. Now, this building actually did more than teach us anatomy, because it sort of gave you a feeling of walking in the footsteps of very, very many illustrious predecessors who had literally walked on the same staircase and and sat in the same hall to perform their dissection. So I think that there is tremendous value in preserving this building. This building is now going to, of course, house the MMC Museum, and the government has sanctioned, if I remember right, I think it's about 1.8 crores that the state government has actually sanctioned for making this building a proper museum and it's not just a museum for the anatomy block, but it's going to be the MMC Museum. Dr. Sudha Seshayan is heading a committee that is working, was heading the committee that was working on this. And any of you who are interested in knowing more or participating in such an initiative, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Sudha at the Tamil Nadu Dr. NGR Medical University, where she is the Vice Chancellor. So this is a closer view of the entrance, and on the ground floor you can see those doors behind that where the histology lab used to be there, and on the right you used to have the wooden staircase which used to take you to the first floor where the anatomy dissection hall used to be. And so this building was literally one of the average student who's probably come through MMC, except in the last 15 years when they have moved to the new campus, 10 years or so. This is the building which everyone would identify. There have been buildings which have come and gone in that period, but the Red Fort remains essentially the signature building, if one can call it that, of the Madras Medical College. Now, this is the second place that we needed to sort of know a lot about. This is the seminar hall, and I'm sure that most batches or most people who are on this call are very, very familiar with this building. And all scientific meetings and sessions used to be held in the seminar hall, including cultural events and so on a smaller scale. Once the scale got bigger, you obviously had to move to different places. But this is again one of the buildings that most of us who have studied in MMC, whether you've studied in the 60s, 70s, or even earlier, and right till this day, would be able to identify. Now, this was the library block, and this block is actually quite significant, not for very many academic reasons, but it's very significant because the other side of this library block, which was sort of adjacent to the ground, was pretty much the couple's corner of Madras Medical College, as it were. So you would you would often wander around there, and you could see a number of couples quietly sitting there, because it was a very discreet kind of place. Of course, those who weren't pretending to study in the library, that is. So this used to be the library block. It's still very much functional, and this was the other side of the block. And as you could see, there was no way of getting out of that side. So pretty much where the car is parked right down to the edge, that used to be frequented by a lot of people. Now, the interesting part was we had a lovely playground there. We still have that huge ground, and the cricket ground or the football ground, the NCC ground, which I will show you. And this was the ground. Now, the ground had a lot of galleries on one side, which is adjacent to the Pundamalli High Road. The interesting part about that was the ground, the galleries, which used to be a popular spot for students to hang out. Now that became a problem because that anybody who was sitting in any of these buildings could see the people who was there in the gallery. So it was not particularly a place which got you any kind of privacy. There was another a landmark, and there, in MMC, which I think every student would know, and that used to be called what was then called the Prakash Kadai. I'm sure many of you would remember that. I searched for a photo, I couldn't get one, but that used to be in between the two blocks that you see on your screens. And that basically was a kind of a hangout spot. And, people would just spend pretty large portions of the day hanging out there. Across the road, we had a series of bookstores, and and 2 or 3 of them used to specialize in these little guidebooks, which we found fascinating because it enabled you to read up all the stuff that you really needed to know in the last 10 to 15 days before the exams. So we had a number of bookstores there on the other side of the road. Another area which I was trying to get a picture of was the doctor's canteen. And the doctor's canteen, this is not the doctor's canteen, by the way, but the doctor's canteen used to be in between the medical college complex and the hospital. It was technically part of the hospital, but I don't think any student in that particular period of time would have missed out on sitting at the doctor's canteen on the night shifts up to 4 a.m., 3 a.m., and chit-chatting, attending to calls, coming back. It was one of those hangout places of Madras Medical College. And all one needed to do to know about how you develop very strong immunity was to go into the washing area of the doctor's canteen. It would be amazing if you saw how dirty it was and how your plates were being washed there, and we still managed to eat, and actually nothing really happened to any of us. We also had one particular person who used to serve food, whom we used to call as Typhoid Mary for very obvious reasons. This was the pillar, the commemorative pillar which came up at the entrance. Of course, you can see this today as well. And this led to a lot of jokes being made in those days. But I think that this pillar again became an integral part of the latter part of Madras Medical College. Obviously, this was not there in the early 80s and so on. But after that, this did come up. So, okay, so this picture where that little car is on the right-hand side of the picture, now that is where the, next to that was where the cooperative stores and the Prakash Kadai, as we called it, used to be there. An entire generation of doctors has walked through the portals, the same places where, I've shown you on the screen. So now let me take you through a few of the very eminent preclinical. Dr. Cooper and Dr. Muthu, unfortunately, were before my time, before I sort of joined, but I've heard a lot about them. When I was there, I'd just like to touch upon 3 or 4 very eminent personalities. Dr. Suniti Solomon, of course, needs no introduction. Unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago, but Dr. Suniti was one of the pioneers in the HIV combating strategies. In fact, right from the discovering, the HIV in India for the first time, isolating, and thereafter virtually being the face of the fight against HIV in India, Dr. Suniti Solomon. Her husband, of course, was the very famous cardiothoracic surgeon, Dr. Victor Solomon. And, Dr. Suniti was a very eminent microbiologist, and she was the professor of microbiology during our time at Madras Medical College. Another very eminent person that I'd like to touch upon, and this person I would like to remember with a great deal of affection, because I think for several batches she was like a mother-like figure there. Dr. Sarada Kadiresan, in fact, I can still remember at the age of 85, about 8-9 years. She passed away 2 years ago. At the age of 84 or 85, she wrote her a book on the thymus, and the enthusiasm and interest that she had. She was one of the authorities on anatomy in the whole country. And she also came from a very illustrious family. Her brother was the very eminent late neurologist, Dr. K. Jagannathan, who worked for many years as the professor and head of the Department of Neurology at MMC as well, at GH. So Dr. Sharada Kadiresan had a very unique strategy, the imprint that she would leave on students. And that was when students misbehaved, and it happened very often, the punishment was that she would fast. It was incredible because it had a much more powerful impact than any disciplinary action that she could have ever taken. And we would all trot up and apologize and promise not to do it again. And that left a lasting impression on the minds of so many batches who would want to prevent her from, going on her fast. So Dr. Sharada Kadiresan was one of the most eminent professors of anatomy in the Red Fort building. And the third person who I also want to recall is Dr. Cecilia Isaac. Dr. Cecilia Isaac, by the way, has an Institute of Anatomy named in her memory in one of the private medical colleges in around Chennai. Dr. Cecilia Isaac actually was from Burma. And she came to Calcutta trudging through the jungles of the Northeast. So literally, she came by walk, during the, just after the war. And thereafter, she came to Madras, and she was working as, she studied in Stanley Medical College, and thereafter she was working in the Madras Medical College as a professor of anatomy, and one of the major contributors in ensuring that the anatomy museums, I think there are 4 or 5 colleges in Tamil Nadu where Dr. Cecilia actually helped put together the anatomy museum. So you see the specimens and all that in the anatomy department. All a large portion of the credit for those must go to Dr. Cecilia Isaac. Now, I've just put together a very small number of people, of such eminent preclinical people, but there have been hundreds, and I'm sure there must have been hundreds more before my time. Unfortunately, one of the sad parts is that we tend to remember the clinicians much more than we tend to remember those who taught us the preclinical subjects, and that I've always felt was a little unfair, because typically the order would be we'd first remember the surgeons. I agree entirely, because I too remember people like Professor Angabashyam with a great deal of affection. But again, the contribution made by the likes of Dr. Cecilia or Dr. Suniti or Dr. Sharada Kadiresan is no less in shaping our careers or shaping us as individuals as well. And in fact, their role, I would say, in many ways was even more, because these were the people whom we saw once we first came. Though when we entered the portals of MMC, we would see them up front, in the first year, the formative years of the college. We remember so many other doctors with Dr. Pre-clinical Dr. Gopalakrishnan, who was a professor of biochemistry, of course, Dr. Arumugam, who was the dean of the college when we actually joined the college. And we remember him with affection for telling us on the very first day, please cooperate with your seniors when they rag you. We just hope that they will not make it very severe. So that was the introduction that Dr. Arumugam gave us on our very first day. But of course, he was again one of those very nice people that we look back and recollect. So I'm going to leave it here with just a few thoughts about the institution itself. I know that we've moved to a modern premises, we moved to a modern campus, and obviously we have to change with the times. But I think that the old campus in MMC had something more than what any modern building could ever have. Maybe we are all biased because most of us in this call have studied in that campus. So maybe we are biased, but I think a medical college in particular has to be much more than just brick and mortar. It's got to have memories, and I think that the old Madras Medical College that we studied carried wonderful memories, not just for us, but for generations of doctors that have passed through its portals. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak today.
Thank you, Sumant. Brilliant piece of information. There is somebody who has posted a picture of Prakash Kadai. So anyone who is interested, you can check on it.
Okay.
I would like to ask you three questions. One is, when you enter portals like this, Red Fort, as a young person, and when you leave that, eventually leave the institute on your career, what were your thoughts?
I think that when you enter, you're too young to really appreciate the importance or the significance of either the place you are in, or of all that's happened in that building before you. I think you appreciate it tremendously when you pass out, and even more once you are out of the institution. In fact, I am fortunate because I keep going back to that building quite once in a while. So the thing is that it gives you a sense of how small you are in the overall scheme of things. So every time you start to feel a little, I know all of this, or you feel overconfident, I think it puts things in perspective. And more, that's why I keep saying that more than a building, it's the memories that get attached to it, that of people who have been there before. And every time you see all those photographs which are put up on the walls of all the lists, there was a big board in the Red Fort which would have the names of all the directors of the Institute of Anatomy. Of course, many of them British, and then from the time the Indians started the list of Indians. So yes, I'm sure somebody is saying, yeah, these are people who went beyond the call of duty. They were not there to teach you the anatomy. And I think that made a massive difference to a lot of us.
Thank you. I mean, you partly answered the question many people ask, what is the point of learning history? Because I raised this question earlier also in the previous one, and people said it's part of your identity. It contributes to your character. Would you agree on that? It gives you an identity. It contributes to your character other than memories and the pride you have of having passed out of that college.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that it adds to your pride. But I think that most importantly, it sort of gives you a perspective of life. How you are just one cog in this enormous wheel of time. It gives you a perspective of time which no new building can ever give. You can have the most snazzy building in the world, but it cannot give you that perspective of time, of timelessness, as it were. You are just one part of this whole thing. And I think that's the biggest realization that I got from the campus.
Thank you, Sumant. And before I'm not sure whether Professor Monasundaram is ready with this video component of his laptop. I still can't see his video.
I can't see the video, but are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Okay. No, there are two in your name, so I'm a little confused. One shows your photo, the other one is totally blank.
No. One with the photos, or somebody, if they want, they can look at me. Photo also.
Okay, sir. I just want to ask you, before I go on to Sri, how have these heritage buildings influenced you? You stayed in MMC for a pretty long time. I would like to know, people who do not have heritage buildings, should they be feeling bad?
See, this is the only college with more than, say, 170 years. I celebrate 170 years. Now it is nearly 180 years. Naturally, it should have all the heritage these things. Not all new colleges cannot have that, no?
Absolutely.
It is
Sri, you are a history buff. Before I go back to Professor Mohan Sundaram, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
So I think any building, like Suman said, it has time and character in it. So if you walk into a temple, if you look at it as a temple and an icon, that's one thing. But if you look at it as something which has been there for 1300 years, and your ancestors were able to build the Mahabalipuram temple or the Brihadishwara temple with hand chisels and things, that tells you about your culture, that tells you about your heritage. The same thing with the anatomy block or all the beautiful buildings which someone just took us through a walk down the memory lane. The only thing which I was hoping to see is the bell which used to go to the men's room next to the post office, opposite to the pathology block. So all those things have character. And every single thing tells you a time. You can have a spanking new operating room where you can fold things and they all disappear and it is a table tennis room. But if you go to an old operating theater, you see those trolleys, you see those lights, that tells you a moment of history of how things were. So they do have a value and we have to preserve. Britain is good in preserving every derelict building. Immediately it is called a grade 2 building and they preserve it. Unfortunately, India, we have the tendency of just preserving the facade and changing everything inside. But that loses the history, that loses everything. But there is now a renewed vigor to preserve those heritage, and I think we should.
Yeah, I agree with you because I mean, some other times when I had gone to see some other universities in Spain and all, they are 1400 years old, and the building is still there. It's fantastic. Like our temples, their universities are there. Unfortunately, we do not have anything that is that too old. Now, I think we should all make an effort to maintain the history of the college.
So the other thing to take it, because yes, it is fantastic to have a nationalistic stance. But what we have to be mindful is history is history. We cannot undo history. We have been ruled by the British. They have contributed in good, bad, or ugly to our region. It's just like all the other influences of Madras. So people say, oh, why are you talking Telugu in Tanjore? Or they're changing the scriptures, inscriptions on the temple saying, oh, somebody's put Hindi. No, it's all Marathi because they were there. So that's history. So the British were there, we were their subjects for a period of time, and they contributed, and we have to just embrace it as part of our history.
Yeah, thank you. If Professor Manasundaram is ready, I ask him to talk about alumni who have done exceedingly well outside the field of medicine. I mean, we all know there have been legends. We have been trained to be doctors, and obviously we are expected to do well in medicine. If somebody does well outside the field of medicine, say art, movies, music, politics, and other things, it will be very nice. Can I please ask you, sir, to talk about alumni who have done well outside the field of medicine? This has resonance because there are many people who think people should not do anything outside medicine, which I think is not correct.
Sir, are you able to see my?
Yeah, we can.
Are you able to see my?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can make it full screen slideshow.
Sorry. Sorry again.
It's okay if you are not able to change it. You can go ahead.
Right.
You can share again, sir. Mohan Sundaram, sir.
Okay, this is the one. Okay, my topic is,
Fine.
as I told, extraordinary MMCMs. They are other than what they in the medical field, at least some of them may be in the medical field also, but are not covered by the previous speakers. Okay. P.V. Cherian, he was the governor of Maharashtra. That's why I choose a name. He did MMC MBBS 1917, FRCS in Edinburgh. The first Indian medical from the Government General Hospital, became principal of MMC, first Indian Surgeon General of Madras Presidency. He became mayor of Madras Corporation, chairman of Madras Legislative Council for 12 years. Like that, it's a real credit. So he is politically as well as this thing, and he was there as a governor for full 5 years, and he died as a governor. That's the thing. So this is Tara Cherian, his wife, who was also a mayor. So both husband and wife became mayors, Chennai mayors. That is a Madras mayor. That is the thing. Then we talk about the other governor, Tamil Soundararajan, Governor Telangana and Pondicherry. She was MBBS DGO and good orator. Then I would like to talk about one Dr. S. Ramadas. He was amongst the 1960 batch. He was a social reformer, equality for everyone. He is instrumental in implementing 27% reservation for OBC in central government. Now the NEET PG admission is going on. All these 27% people will be benefited. Similarly, 20% reservation for MBC in Tamil Nadu, 10.5 reservation for MBCV, like that. So he is a social reformer, our MMCN. Then the Anmani Ramadas is one of the, he is a union health minister. Say, I am going in that order. First we have finished governors, then we are going to the ministers. Union 2004 to 2009, he was MMC 1986 batch. He was also sports secretary of MMC student days. He established the National Rural Health Mission in 2005 as a health minister. About 15,000 crores were spent throughout India. It introduced the 108 ambulance. Previously, it was only a few states. He made it the entire country benefited. And maternity and neonatal care was improved. NICU, PICU, all the maternal mortality rate, neonatal mortality, all were reduced because of the implementation of NRHM scheme. It's a national alcohol policy. That is, you have to avoid policy. You see in a movie now, you see alcohol, drinking alcohol is injurious to health, like that. All this because of his efforts. And in the tobacco, this cigarette packet, if you see, there will be this cancer picture and all will be there. All because of his efforts to prevent all those things. Then he is one Dr. V.S. Natarajan, who is a geriatrician of our MMC. He requested him to bring Institute of Geriatrics in Chennai, that he is allotted funds. But when he wanted to introduce in Chennai, even the AIMS people, Delhi, they asked for it. So both each 100 crore rupees. Now even the building is built now. It is in the King Institute area. This building was fully ready, but it was used for our COVID treatment nowadays. But till it is over, it will be for that only. Then regional blood bank was introduced. He allotted 100 crores for Institute of Gynecology, Egmore, and Gosha Hospital, Triplicane. Then Super Specialty Hospital, Salem, 120 crores. For regional cancer center, Madurai, 50 crores. For Kanjipuram Center, 45 crores. He initiated proposals for AIMS at Madurai, which is now only getting materialized. It was a whole polio-free India he wanted to, it was achieved. And JIPMER made autonomous by spending 2,000 crores. The JIPMER, even though it is Pondicherry, most 70% of the people are from Tamil Nadu only getting benefited. So it is definitely again for Tamil Nadu only. And introduced National Institute of Siddha. That is all the thing. Only this is the things. Anmani being my student, I would like to tell about this. And he is a union health minister. Only health minister probably might have done so much for Tamil Nadu. The other health minister I will talk is Vijay. He is Tamil Nadu State Health Minister 2011 and 12. His original name was Trinyanam. I later he changed it to Vijay. He was a bodybuilder and all in the hostel. He is from Vellore. This is a picture in Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University. Dr. V.Baskaran there. This is Dr. Vijay, and this is myself. See, we belong to, Mailvan belonged to 1971 batch, I belong to 1972, and Vijay belonged to 1973. All the three batches are MMCN represented here. Then Pungavi already Arna, the other this thing, is MBBS, MRCOG London. She was Tamil Nadu IT minister from 2006 to 2011. And you see Sumant, the previous speaker, Swansea Raman, is a medical IT specialist. He receiving the memento from the IT minister. All MMCMs, really great. We have members of parliament from MMC. One MK Vishnu Prasad is from Arni constituency. These are current sitting MPs. And Kalanidhi Veerasamy MP is from North Madras. And Anmani also is Rajesh Savma. Both three, we have three members, MPs, and all three of my students. And we'll go to the IAS people. Dr. P. Uman of the IAS, very eminent person. He was a Coimbatore collector, he was joint secretary of finance, managing director of Tamil Nadu Medical Service Corporation during COVID peak period, and managed very effectively. All the remdesivir stock he has only brought and he distributed to all the needy people and hospitals. Currently, he is a secretary to Chief Minister, secretary to Tamil Nadu. So he is one of the real MMCN, he is doing real service, continue to do it. And Bila Rajesh, IAS, she is the other MMCN. Originally, she belongs to, she is selected for the Chhattisgarh cadre. Even during that 175th celebration 2010, she came all the way from Chhattisgarh to our MMC 170 functions. In February 2000, she was made as health secretary Tamil Nadu during COVID peak period, and she really did it very well. Everybody knows. This is another doctor. This thing. She is also from 2010. She was first year student. Now she is selected as the IAS, and she is in the Karnataka cadre. Then, so now we will go to some of the other, namely the musicians. L. Subramaniam is a very popular violinist. He was originally from Sri Lanka. He moved to Chennai and got into MMC, MBBS. He passed out. It's on 90, he is now he is 74 years now. You can calculate when he would have finished here. He created a lot of albums with leading Carnatic musicians. Chambai Vaidyanatha Bhavadar, Sammangudi Srinivasa Iyer, Balamali Krishna, and Balkat Mani Iyer. Incidentally, Balamali Krishna's two sons are our MMCNs. Sudhakar, he was my classmate, and one more, Vishnu Mohan something. So, and these are the Western counterparts. Egudi Menun, Stephen Grappelli, Lugirio Ritzi, and Jean-Pierre Rampal. With all people here created a lot of albums which are widely known. He was given Violin Chakravarti Award by Madras Governor 1972. At the time, K.K. Shah was the governor. He was given Padma Shri 1998. You must see how many Padma Shris have been evolved from the MMC. It is really nice to note. And he also Padma Bhushan also in 2001. And Western press called him as Paganini of Indian violin. I don't know who is that Paganini, but he is a very much, very appreciated person, L. Subramaniam, violinist. Even 170th their function, he gave the program, which was very much appreciated our Chief Minister, Kalanja Karnanidhi. Okay, another person I'm going to talk about is Rajasekhar Varadarajan. He is a movie actor. Say Uganda police, like that. He studied MBBS in MMC and practiced in Amjikarai for his brief period. After that, acting movies from 1985 onwards, mostly Telugu movies, acted in more than 75 movies. He is action hero. He married an artist Jeevita. He won Best Actor Award twice and all. Incidentally, Varadarajan, his father was Assistant Commissioner of Police. He was posted in our Flower Bazaar area itself. That is, he was looking after MMC area. When there was some problem in the hostel, some external people and all entered into our MMC hostel. He immediately sorted out and came to our rescue like that. So, this one of the very famous actor. This thing. Many people, it may be news. What of whom I am going to talk will be mostly news for many of the people. They may not know such a person belongs to MMC and he is a doctor. Okay. Another person is Johnny Graman. He is also an actor. He is an MBBS, MS-ENT man. He acted in 2 movies as hero. One is Brahmadeva, other is Kattuviriyan. He is clever to stop as hero only with these 2 movies and stopped this thing. As on date, he is a leading surgeon in skull-based surgery. He is practicing from Trichy. Next, all very well known to everyone, Sirgadi Sivasidambaram. He was MBBS and MD General Medicine from MMC. He is a popular singer like his father, Sirgadi Govindarajan. But he also a faculty in assistant professor, reader, and then professor, Department of Medicine, MMC. He was also director in charge for internal medicine for some time. He got Kalaimamani Award from Tamil Nadu and Padma Shri Award from the Central. And he also became finally Dean from Government Medical College. See, in both fields, in music as well as in medicine. He rendered justice. He managed both. It's very, very difficult for anyone to do like that. I really appreciate Sri Sivasambaram, my junior. Some of the few professors I would like to, who are not covered by others. This one, Ambika Shanmugam, she was a very famous professor of biochemistry, very well known, very nice teacher. A textbook of fundamental of biochemistry is popular among medical, dental, nursing students because all cannot read and understand Harper biochemistry those days. So for everybody, this Ambika Shanmugam fundamental of biochemistry is very, very simple and useful. We can pass very easily biochemistry because of this. Really all indebted her for that. She was also a TNPSC member, and I got my assistant selection during her period. I'm really happy. Later, I also able to become dean also because of her. Next person name is T.S. Kanaka. It's already you know. South is her first lady neurosurgeon. She has also served in the military for some time. She pioneered stereotactic, functional and cerebral electrode implant surgery. She is a master in all those things. She not only MS, MC in neurosurgery, she also did PhD and all. Incidentally, she was my PhD guide also. She donated her blood 139 times. Have you ever seen any doctor donating like this blood? He used to donate blood and go and do surgery and all. He's receiving award from Mayor 2009 or 10, I don't know. From Mayor, this is Mas Subramaniam. Currently, he is the health minister. So from this happened and she is receiving the award. So Sarada Menon, the most known psychiatrist, she joined the Institute of Mental Health, then known as a government mental hospital in Hill Park. She is superintendent in 1978. She became woman superintendent in 1961. She founder of SCAR, Schizophrenia Research Foundation. This is the most credit for her because all people may hate government mental hospital and Institute of Mental Health, get admitted. But this schizophrenia is an alternate. It's not very costly also, but care is very good like that. So because of that, she is really remembered still. She got number of awards. Padma Bhushan, Avayar Award is given by Tamil Nadu. State Best Doctor Award like that. So many awards she has received. Really great. It's my friend, philosopher and guide, Lalita Kamasaran. I did UG as well as PG, MD Pharmacology under her. She was the first director of Institute of Pharmacology. She was vice principal of MMC. She was also dean of MMC. She was a director of medical education and first vice chancellor of Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR. First post is a special officer of this MGR University, and she became this thing. Her husband Kameswaran, equally this thing. His ENT is this thing, big boss, and his her son Mohan Kameswaran. He is also a very popular ENT surgeon nowadays. Cochlear implant is his specialty. In 2010, we did the first cochlear implant at Madras Medical College. He came and helped us. So like that, the entire family, Kameswaran family, is attached to Madras Medical College very well. Incidentally, when I was doing post-graduation, I got married and Madam was the chief guest for that. Dr. Badrinath is MMC student 1957. He founded chairman emeritus of Sankar Nethralaya, one of the great eye hospital, Grassland Hospital, New York, Brooklyn Eye and Air Inflammatory, fellow of Veterinary Services, Massachusetts and Eye Air Infantry, Boston, fellow of Royal College of Canada, American Board, all ophthalmology. Is a really very eminent person. He is the president of Medical Research Foundation he created for this Sankar Nethralaya, for Sankar Hospital unit. He also awarded Padma Shri in 1983 and Padma Bhushan in 1999. So like that, many of our doctors are Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan. Now you see the famous Dr. V. Shanta, is chairperson of Adyar Cancer Institute. She did MBBS, then a DGO 52 and MD Obstetrics 55. From 55 onwards, after finishing obstetrics, she was given posting at this thing, Institute of Obstetrics and Gynecology, but refused and she went and joined with that Adyar Cancer Institute since 1930. She was given a small quarters like that. She lived in that till her death. She's a director of institute between and it's 1980. It's a real distinction. She was not only Padmasri Padma Bhushan, but she also Matsai Award, as well as she is the only Padma Vibhushan from our doctors I able to see. I don't know for others, maybe somebody, but is really great for Shanta being our MMC alumnus. TMFI, many of you must have heard our MMCN. He is a physician, he is educationist, banker and philanthropist. He is founder of Kasturiba Medical College in 1903. Was to start a private self-financing medical college offering MBBS in India. Please make note. Now we have hundreds of self-financing colleges, but still this is the one. But he really maintained, followed by dental, engineering, pharmacy, other institutions, finally resulted in Mahe, Manipal Academy of Higher Education University. He is also commercially this thing. Well, these people established Syndicate Bank, which is a part of Canara Bank. Now Syndicate Bank is merged with Canara Bank, I think. He was also given Padma Shri. He didn't try for Padma Bhushan and all, I think. So at TMFI, our MMCN has done so much achievements. This is the Lifetime Achievement Award. 170 celebrations of February 2010. I was the organizing secretary. This Taniyachalam was a advisor for this. We had number of people in this. You can see all. You can see Badrinath. You can see all our eminent this thing. C.N. Devanayagam, Seshaya, Vittal, this Shanta here, like Sarada Menon, Kameswaran, J.G. Kannappan, dentist, Amaresan, all Sarsa Bhadyarma. Here sitting is our A. Venugopal. He was 93 years at that time. Because Kalinger also a similar age, he was very happy to be with them. I really enjoyed with the company all these people for giving them award, Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm very happy. I was able to give the Lifetime Achievement Award to all my teachers. All were my teachers in undergraduate. So I'm really very, very happy. Okay, so some of the anecdotes I would like to think. This is the MMCN meeting, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi at his residence, 1989. I was the assistant professor standing next to Prime Minister. On the towards the left is this thing, Dindivanam Ramurthy. He was MP at that time at New Delhi. He only arranged this meet. His son Kannaya is standing next to him. We are a small group of people went to Delhi and other places. Recently, we visited AIIMS and all. But this was really unexpected and real this thing. And of course, this is Kalanidhi Veerasamy. The right side end is Kalanidhi Veerasamy. He is a sitting member of this thing, North Madras MP. So we are all able to go there. We met Rajiv Gandhi during 1989. At that time, we never imagined his body will be brought us within 2 years to our GH mortuary after assassination. We never imagined. And we also never imagined our GH itself name will be changed into Rajiv Gandhi Government General Hospital. But we had an opportunity to meet him during that occasion. That is discussed a long time ago. So we are fortunate to meet him, but we are unfortunate to receive his body here. This is another Bernard Institute of Radiology celebrated is post-flood now. They should celebrate 2009 itself, 75th year, but 2010 only they celebrated. Prince Prabhakar was the director. At that time, this old lady is Barbara King. She is the daughter of Bernard. When Bernard was working here at the GH, she was a small girl. She went there. Now they have found out and brought her for this function, great function. This really great one. We were able to do it in 2010. She is, at that time, she has brought on silver plate. This is more than 2 kg weighing pure silver plate. It was given to this thing, Bernard, at the time he is leaving. In this plate, all the radiologists have signed in that. Their signatures are there, inscribed there. She told, if that plate is there, after some time nobody will realize its value. They may think value of silver only. So she brought in, handed over to the Dean General Hospital, myself, to be kept in the forever for us to remember. A real great thing. This is a daughter, granddaughter of this. So like that, this is one of the important occasions. We really, this thing, we cannot forget all this thing. This Barbara King giving back. This is my last slide. This is again one of the important event. Miraculous happening to Pamban Swamigal in our GH. In 1923, Pamban Swamigal had an accident. His left ankle was broken. He was admitted in ground generator. It has happened in Tambuchetti Street. X-ray was taken probably by Bernard himself at the time. The fracture was confirmed. The treating doctor suggested amputation. I don't know why. Pamban Swami was only praying to Lord Murugan and said, let them do what they want. On the 11th day, he saw two peacocks to dance before him and saw Lord Murugan as an infant. So two peacocks dancing and Lord Murugan lying. So this is maybe illusion or whatever may be. It all happened. They say it's all not very far. Visualize the whale entering Pamban Swami's broken ankle, and miraculously the leg was cured. The Pamban Swami temple, I mean, Samadhi and other things are still there in Thiruvanmiyur. The same people are there till this. Every year they celebrate this Utsavam as Mailvahana Sevai, like that they are doing it. So this picture was there in old building of the Government General when we were students, but I don't think they kept in the new building now. Anyway, these are all the stories used to tell everybody. This I used to remember very well. Okay. See, MMCNs always have merit. With this, I thank the Dr. Bhaskaran and others for giving me opportunity to tell my experience of MMCN. I was there 72 to 91 as a UG, PG, assistant professor continuously for 19 years in MMC. After that, then again last 2 years of my retirement, I was there as a team. I really was fortunate. Thank you one and all for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for very many wonderful stories. I have one question, because when I read about Bernard Institute, I was told our Bernard Institute was one of the first to get an X-ray machine. Apparently, it appeared here within 5 years of its invention.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
However, apparently there was no electricity to run it. So how was it used? At that time, Madras did not have electricity to run its X-ray machine. Sri, you have any idea how long it was not used?
They had some amplifier, something like that. They had attached with that. With that, they were using. I heard something about only a radiologist who was well versed with that will be able to tell.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So we have had many stalwarts. We have had people who are fond of the college, history, talk about many things. Now we have a young person who is a student. I may ask him to talk to us about what, as a current crop of student, he feels about the college. We may not share our love for the college. He may have different expectations from the college. He may have different aspirations from the college. Correct?
Yeah, yes, sir. A very good evening.
Yeah. 1 second. Can you tell us how is the campus different now compared to what was described by others, especially by Dr. Sumant? I'm sure there must have been some change.
Yes, sir. I will come to that.
Just let me complete before I go on. Okay. 2, I'm sure there is a sea change in the constitution of students. Nowadays,
yes, sir.
There is no difference between the pattern of students who come to MMC and, say, for example, XYZ Medical College. It will be roughly the same, maybe 0.12% marks different. Okay. So, can you just tell us, 1, how is the campus different? 2, how are the students different? And 3, your concern. What COVID has done to the college?
Yeah, definitely, sir. So first, a very good evening to all of you, sir, and then to the great alumni. And then it was really very nice to hear about all the great stalwarts of MMC, and then and it feels really a pleasurable moment to me to present before you all, sir. Okay. And then coming to the campus first, earlier the campus was which was in the old, which is the old college, and then now the campus is moved to the new jail campus, which people an acronym called because there was the old central jail located. And then probably we are thankful to the new campus because our capacity was increased from 165 in 2013 to 2014, which was around 250. So the similar change happened and also in Stanley Medical College in the next following years. But the concern is that the ambience which the old college had, there was the British architecture, the tall roofs. So the minimum height, even if people come to see, it's around minimum 20 feet height. And then that beautiful roof settings and the whole, that is still a sort of an old architecture, and then like a monument which we have to be preserved. Currently, we are running with the OPs, the outpatient department of few department is running, except the Red Fort, which is being still held. I think as a few professors has mentioned, it is going to be the Heritage Center. So the new campus, which has 6 floors along with the men's hostel and the women hostel in the campus. To be frank, it looks like one of our dean also mentioned, our ex-dean, Dr. Jayanti, who is currently in Womanthura Medical College now. It is like a concrete jungle. So this simulates like, for few of them, it simulates like an IT park where people used to come and then sit and go. And the departments are also very are restricted on the sense. So the flow or movement of students, which was as Suman sir had said, was very good in the world campus, had been much restricted. And then the space problem also, we have a few space issues such as so the a big place to gather, we have a common hall, but still MMC has it out. Even the TDS students from the government medical come for the anatomy, pathology classes. The paramedical students come here. So still, we are also proud of them. That we are an institution where many people come, but still we have to have that a place needed for them to be accommodated, and then a place to be hangovering, and those things are which are lacking. Which will be happy if those things can come up in the future. And then coming to the constitution of the students coming. So I think the earlier the students would have been taken by an interview panel, and then the method of admission was being constantly changed every year with the entrance exam, the state entrance exam, and then the +2 marks. So whatever it is, the method of admission, it is like the same, similar like the schools. However, the school are admitted, it is like an how we call in the statistics, so the bell-shaped curve. There are few students who are in the low category, few students in the higher-most category, and then the few students. So it is always a mix, so that and a pyramid or that curve was always maintained. All the few students who are interested in the cultural, extracurricular activities, few take the leadership activities, few are very concentrated on the academic. But to come on the aspect of peculiarity of MMCNs, what we are able to see in the current batches is that they are very inward towards their studies compared to the other city medical colleges like Stanley or KMC. They are much concerned about their academics. I think the situation would have been similar in the past. If it's so okay, even though there are people, so there is a concept called as a quiz, quizzings, and then the poster presentations. But this quiz, especially just I was going through because this should not be a present view of myself. I was just asking to few of my friends so that it should not be any bias about the current view of students. They felt it was encouraging and motivating to few students, but it was felt that how can they expect a lot from a student of just in 2 or 3 medical years? Of course, some students are able to excel in it. Those academic events are serving as a pressure or a depression for few students. And then some mentioning some peculiarity of MMCNs, they call their seniors as sir, but still maintain akka with girls. With I think this situation would have been also in the past. We are also happy with that, so that there is a sort of respect which is maintained to our seniors. But the respect which comes with an side effect of distance. So it would have been better if there has been a much more family-like feeling with the seniors. Yes. And then, sir, shall I enlighten with the council activities which are going on now?
If it is significant, if it is going to affect the reputation of the college. See,
yeah, sir.
I'm sure Madras Medical College does not have political unions, unlike Calcutta Medical College.
Yeah, definitely, sir. So, okay, I'm just going to be concentrated on the welfare activities of the students. That is not of much political involvement, just like in other colleges of arts and science, not of thought. There has been a constructive, they have always been serving to progress the college from what it is before to take it to the higher levels. One of the important academic events is that the Genesis quiz and it's an inter-college Genesis event, an inter-college event where there are workshops, usually in the month of September. Workshops and then quiz, junior quiz, senior quiz, and then the poster presentations, research paper presentations. And then coming to the cultural events, one and the Kalayaman inter-college cultural event happening at the month of April. Probably many alumni would have known because they would have been invited as the chief guest to those events. And then the inter-college cultural event revivals during around the month of September, and the NCRO, the sports meet also around the month of September, and then the Tamil Mantram event in the beginning of Chitrai Masam. So people would be celebrating with the different names, of course. And then the hostel life, which is of most significance. So earlier the hostel was in the Paris corner near the current bus terminus. Now we have moved to here. So still students feel, though the capacity has increased, the infrastructure, all those things have improved, that the same ambience, the aeration, the ventilation, the lighting, all those which they enjoyed there, and then the space are still lacking in this hostel. So it would be also good if some of you can enlighten about the old hostel, how you had that. So I think I should cover more about the emotional and the social aspects rather than the physical aspects, and because many of you would have already known what is happening, what is being constructed, what is going on. So the students still go there or meet there, so they just hang out around that. So this is all happening, and then with the hostels, the late night sleeps. And then and then the next day morning going late to the college with average hostel food, and then if the birthday party is the previous night, the soap solution which is going to be poured all over the hostel post, the corridor crickets, all these are going to be really an hostel life. And then the girls hostels, I have mentioned they have a beautiful garden in the current campus, and then the rain during the rainy season. I think in the middle they have a courtyard with a badminton which we are using as for shuttle courtyard. The rain which is if this comes is going to be a really beautiful view. And then with the new campus, we have come almost more to the river side. I think if you could remember some of you could remember the Vasul Raja movie. You will go to the house of to அவங்க கல்யாணத்துக்காக அவங்க பொண்ணு பாக்குறதுக்காக போவாங்க. அவர் சொல்லுவாரு, நான் சென்ட்ரலுக்கு எதிர்க்க இருக்க காலேஜ் அப்படின்னு. சென்ட்ரலுக்கு எதிர்க்க ஜெயில் தானப்பா இருக்கு அப்படின்னு. So now the jail has become truly a college for us. So this is just a funny facts but which have turned to be true nowadays. And coming to the and then the points. So interaction and unity among the students, which is of the main aspect which I think I should cover. Earlier there was around 163 students, so there was a sort of great interaction. With the coming of 250 students, I think the interaction and the unity, the togetherness or the sense of belongingness has not been hampered. Definitely it is preserved in the groups of the eco club or the cultural groups or the literature groups, academic groups. So it is like even the hostel itself is a support system where everyone would be hearing to their problems, so heading out to the needs of others. So the interaction and unity, I think it is not much hampered. But currently there is a situation where with 250 students, definitely even with around 40 students in the school, there are going to be groupisms. So there is a sense of factionalism among the students, I think, which is even in the beginning years and the students progress as they progress into their academic years. Definitely they just realize that it is time to be together, and then I think they are overcoming with that.
Okay, Sarath, I will interrupt you now because we are led to wind up shortly.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Before that, I'll ask you one question, and I'll ask other panelists also.
Definitely, sir.
One criticism against Madras Medical College has been that the kind of bonding which is seen in Stanley Medical College is missing in Madras Medical College, mainly because many of the Stanleyans stay in the hostel, whereas MMCians do not stay in the hostel. Would the other panelists agree?
Maybe Dr. Sridhar Ratnam can come in.
Yeah, Sri.
I think we have to give it to the Stanleyans. They call it the Stanleyan spirit. So that definitely is much more than the MMCNs. I mean, we all meet, we all have a good interaction, but you can't match the Stanleyan spirit. And from my generation, that probably is because most of the Stanleyans were from outskirts, whereas most of the MMCNs, the bigger proportion were day scholars. So the bonding of the Stanleyan hostelers, which definitely much better than MMCNs, I would say.
Thank you. The second issue is...
Sir,
yes, sir.
There is a strong alumni association for Stanley, which is not there in MMC, which we have been telling long time back. That's a reason why we are not all united. Wherever Stanleyan, that spirit is there everywhere. Any country they go, they will join together and they will help others like that. That spirit is not there with MMC. That's a problem.
Okay. The second issue is many of these heritage, historic colleges like Calcutta Medical College, Madras Medical College, Grand Medical College, Osmania, CMC Ludhiana, they are all very, very old colleges. But the ranking is not anywhere in the top 10. So there obviously are far too many issues involved. Is there anything which the alumni can do to raise the reputation of the college?
Yes, sir. Coming to that ranking issue, actually, our college for few years back we have not filed that NIRF ranking, but recently with the initiatives of the few professors and then the other faculty members, they have actually filed those things, and then it is good that we get a ranking now, and it is not so bad. But to be mentioned that some of the private colleges who have pumped their financial resources so much to get their infrastructure to heading up to the level, so they are also being in the top levels of those rankings. But still, our motive, and then this actually the rankings which usually we think the students used to show, it's more usually based upon the infrastructure to which we offer. Of course, infrastructure is important, but there are other issues like that, the spirit and how the students teach. This is one more aspect.
Sarath,
and then,
Sarath, we are all aware about the ranking technology. So
yes.
people may have different versions, but at the end of the day, we'll have to accept whether you like it or not. So,
Definitely.
Let me ask other people. There are people who are raising their questions. Dr. Srinivasan. Dr. Srinivasan is HOD radiotherapy in Miyot Hospital. Dr. Srinivasan.
My point is there was MMC hostel in UK and the US, which was supporting students who came to do PLAB or USMLE. I don't think there's something like that which happened in other medical colleges. I feel, MMC was something which is a very good bondage, and I'm happy that people, most of my students or most of my batchmates got benefited by staying in MMC hostel, which was very, very meager amount that they spent, and they cleared PLAB and they have become very good consultants in UK. So I still feel that MMC spirit stays along.
Thank you. Professor Khalil Ahmed.
Bhaskaran, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Now, actually, I want to know from all the big shots from Madras Medical. I did my MCH under Dr. Rangabhash in 1992. Actually, there's a time when all the super specialties, newer super specialties started in Madras Medical College, say in 70s, 80s, and 90s. After that, there's a stasis in academic development or newer courses coming up. Maybe I'll ask Dr. Mohansundaram to respond first, and then the rest of the others. Is there any stasis? I don't see more super specialties coming up.
So there is a general trend everywhere. The people, because the mode of admission has changed now. So see, anybody from other state coming to Tamil Nadu, he has to work for a bond so many years, or so many lakhs like that. So that's why so many seats are even going vacant in pediatric surgery and all. Even cardiology, cardiothoracic and all are going waste, they are telling. It's because of the reason the correct person who wants to do it is not allowed to do it. Because
I think Dr. Radha mentioned about newer specialties. That's what you mean, no, Radha?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
You
because
let to bring in super specialization.
yeah, because for example, I'll tell.
Gastroenterology is not enough. You bring in hepatology.
I'll give you an example, Bhaskar. You be me and being GI surgeons. There's MCH gastroenterology surgery. After that, MCH minimal access surgery, MCH hepatobiliary surgery, MCH colorectal. So many newer specialties that come in other institutions, but not in MMC. MMC, there's a stagnation, is what I feel. In the past, maybe 2 decades.
No, we have a DM hepatology and all started, no?
Okay.
So it is only the interest of the professors and other things. And if any extra expenditure to be involved, the government will think. These are the things. And really, you should have some of them. We should do minimum this thing need that has to be satisfied first. So these we cannot expecting, and after finishing they have to be given posting, and also to create necessary equipment and all, it will be very costly and all. They cannot go and work in ordinary hospitals. So like that. But only there are so many fellowships are coming up.
Like
coming as MCH or DM, it may not work out. Even diploma in diabetology is not accepted by many. They say when endocrinology is there, diploma, but still we are having diploma in diabetology in MMC alone. Like that.
Yeah, see, Radha, we have international stalwarts. Group. We have Professor Amit Ghosh, we have many others. So they don't have multiple degrees. They just have one MD. And that person is super specialized in one particular aspect. Can I ask Dr. Amit Ghosh his opinion? Is it necessary to have degrees for super specialization?
It is. I mean, in US, we just write MD, but if you look at the resume of the doctors, there are many things buried, because that's very important to have the mentorship to do under the right places. But what I wanted to, I heard the entire history because I graduated from JIPMER, like MMC was very big in our radar because we used to get a lot of professors from there coming and lecturing. Thank you for all the distinguished alumni who spoke about MMC. One of the things which I found clearly in US, and I'm in the Mayo Clinic for the last 21 years, is that we have a huge philanthropic group. So we have patients, we have alumni, much more than alumni. I mean, everybody's trying to get the alumni to give money, but the patients, they are huge. All the buildings I'm sitting here next to me have been funded by patients because they see a value in doing that. Somehow in India, with this free kind of thing, I really appreciated the story of the doctor who didn't want to give a free treatment or charge a minimal amount, because then everything is lost. Part of the thing which our mentioned about maintaining the history versus having new faculty, new places. However much you want to hold a building which is very old and dilapidated with all the British architecture, that's good to keep them, but you really need modern facilities. I mean, MMC is the institution in India, and to see the rankings go down and the students feeling lost, it is not about the history alone, but it's about today and what's going to happen tomorrow. The specialties, I agree, it's important, like Patta said, but if nobody is attending to that specialty or you don't have the right people, would you gain much getting 2 or 3 years in that institution? So one of my thing would be for Indian medicine would be if the stalwarts which are here can arrange a division of development which gives money to the institution and actively. I will give you an example. In Mayo Clinic, we get in Rochester alone $1 million a day. And our goal is like $1 billion in 3 years, but we got it in 2 years because the amount people pay attention to our growth. So that's probably something to think about rather than just kind of rely on our historical buildings, which are great, but after a while, if you have 250 people there, it's hard.
Sumant got something to say.
Yeah, I just add one very important point for what has actually led to this situation. See, the whole problem is that, and Dr. Mohansundaram is here to sort of second that, I'm sure. the role of the dean. The dean of Madras Medical College is supposed to be looking and focusing on the academic aspects of the college. Unfortunately, 95% of the time is spent on routine administrative work. And routine administrative, for instance, I have been in various deans' offices when things like, there is a drainage block in some ward, and there is a quarrel between two patient attenders, and it is brought to the dean's attention. So the government came up with an idea of having an administrative head for each of these hospitals, maybe a junior IAS officer, being put in charge of some of the larger hospitals, and other officials to be put on. This was actually proposed, and it reached a particular stage in government. But then at some stage, this whole proposal fell off. So Dr. Monosuram, you know very well. So there is nobody who's actually looking at, so like he said, if there is a professor who is interested, who has the initiative to sort of lobby and get new courses and new super specialty programs introduced, then he can do it. Otherwise, there is no mechanism or system in place to ensure that this happens. And that is the sad part.
Sumant, in most of the private institutions, they have academic dean separately and administrative dean. In separate administrator and other cadre, you want to keep only a doctor as administrative dean and a doctor, another person who is interested in academic and research as academic dean. Most of the places they have started, but in the government it has not yet come up. That is the problem.
Yes, that's the whole problem. Yeah.
Okay, I think before I wind up, I will ask the panelists for two things. One, I want them to give in 1 or 2 sentences what they learned from the college. Second, if there is any amusing anecdote which still remains fresh in their minds. Yeah, I'll start with Sri.
Thank you, Bhaskaran. Before I answer your questions, one of the things which has changed to answer Dr. Radhakrishnan's question is back in the day in the 80s or 90s when we grew up, you still had honorary physicians and surgeons who had private practice but had a passion for education, who all came to teach in MMC, like Mohan Rao in medicine, Tiruvadanan in surgery, and every day there will be an afternoon lesson which was motivating people to tell you to go elsewhere and how you progress. That unfortunately was scrapped when I was in medical school. So that took away a lot of people. So that has to be there. And somebody put it on the chat box. The inspiration to publish and present is lost. There are people who have achieved and expanded the departments. My uncle was a professor in gastroenterology. He managed to expand the unit to 2 units, Chandramohan. So where there is a will, it did happen. Now, coming back to what I love about MMC, it is the heritage, it is the camaraderie, it is being proud to be an MMCN. As one of your colleagues said, yes, there is an MMC hostel in East Ham where a lot of my friends went, and we look after each other, but still it's not as good as the Stanley. The anecdote which I'll never forget is the matron who does the rounds at midnight. I don't know how many of you believe in ghost stories, but if you go to the 2nd floor in the night, in the surgical wards, all the nurses will be sitting in one ward. And you ask them why, they'll say, we're waiting for the matron to do the ward round. I said, if the matron's doing the ward round, why are you hiding here? Oh, no, this matron's been doing the ward round for the last 110 years. Believe you me, at 12 o'clock, you will hear the clickety clock of the clocks walking down from ward 31, walking up the ramp and going towards 33. You don't see anybody, you hear the noise. I've heard it. But it is for those who believe whether it exists or not.
Okay. Sridhar, what do you...
Yeah, I was convent educated, and when I came to MMC, it was literally a cultural shock. First of all, although I'm a Tamilian by birth, and I learned that Tamil is my second language, my Tamil was so offensive that the normal way I speak, people used to look horrified. So I learned to act. This was the pre-NEET era, and I literally met people from every strata of society, and that literally made me a better individual. Regarding the anecdote, I will quote one anecdote from IOG. In those days, at 6 p.m. in IOG, they will shift the blood bank to the labor ward. I was quite puzzled by this move because then one nurse very solemnly told me that there's a ghost going around. And if you go there to that room after 6 p.m., it'll ask you, what group are you? What blood group are you? So they literally believed this, and they had this shifting of the blood bank at 6 p.m. every day religiously.
That is very nice. I mean, full of ghost stories. I hope Sumant is not going to say anything about ghost stories. Sumant, what would be your take on your college experience and your anecdote?
First of all, the take is unforgettable. I think that wherever you go after that and whatever you do, I think those, we often say the best years of our lives are those that are spent in undergraduate college. So I think that that is definitely applicable. The history, the heritage, that is something. And I think the ability for us to see and be in the midst of so many great people who, were much more than just knowledgeable. They were compassionate, they were giving, they were not, focused as much on the commercials of medicine as they were on doing good. So a whole lot of things were there to learn. And I think that all of us who went through MMC in those years must have at least absorbed some of the good there. Regarding the unforgettable incidents, oh my God, there were so many, but I'll just restrict myself to one. So in those days, pathology, we would have the rather unofficial task, which the attender would sort of allot specimens to you for the, practical exam. So everybody would go and choose their specimens beforehand. And then there would be a draw of lots when you enter the hall. You have to pick the lot and go in. So we had one of our colleagues, Professor T.K. Shanmugasundaram's daughter, Dr. Shalini. So she said, no, I will not do all these things. This is against my principles and all that. So this was hilarious because what happened was, had she picked the number, so we would go pick a number, the number may be 2 or 3 on the slip, but we will say 7 because already we have booked number 7 there. So that applied to the whole batch. And there's this lady who actually says, I will not do it. So if she opened the slip and got 2 and said 2, somebody else is already going to be allocated to 2. And the whole 14 of us would be in trouble. So my God, I mean, we all went and literally begged and said, see, we will take all sins upon ourselves. This sin is not going to go to your account. And finally, we persuaded her. I think there was an unforgettable experience, but it also sort of showed up, many of the wrongs that were there in medical education right from the first, right from those days. Though it was a small infringement, it still, was a lesson for many of us and something which is quite unforgettable.
Thank you so much. Professor Monasundaram?
Sir, I did BSc, and after that, Loyola College, after that only joined MBBS. I had served in the NCC in Loyola College also. So I continued in MMC also. What happened, there was a chief minister visit, same Kalaignar Kurnani is visiting our hospital, college, for some college day function. And we had to give guard of honor for him. One of the senior under officer was there. He had some problem with our NCC officer, J.G. Kannappan. And on the next day, the program, previous day, he was removed from that. I was asked to be given that post of under officer, and I was asked given that guard of honor to Kalaignar Kurnanidhi, which was really our next fight. Never expected. It was a chance for me. I want to recollect that incident. After it was happened in 1975. Then in 2010, the same Kalaignar Krutinidhi, again he was chief minister. I was told, I told, I was able to give God of Honor to Kalaignar Krutinidhi and to 9,075. But now also I am giving God of, this as this thing, organizing secretary, I am able to do this thing for the Kalaignar. But we have not been this thing. I have been promoted to this post from a student to the dean, but Kalaignar remains only as a this thing, as a same chief minister that day and nowadays. That is the thing. I was like that. So many incidents I used to have, and I myself, my wife was assistant professor of pathology. She was the deputy warden in the ladies' hostel, just opposite to that old hostel. So we used to stay there. Suddenly, some student will get abdominal pain. Invariably take them in our car to this thing. Invariably they will operate for appendicitis. So many things happen like that. And I also used to be, maybe both myself and wife used to go as a, whenever those days students go to long tour. This long tour, Nainital, Darjeeling, Simla, like that. So many places, 10 days tour like that they will go on. We both used to go accompany them as a staff, this thing for them. So most of the North Indian places those days I saw only along with our students. So these are the things, and this is really enjoyable, very nice, proud to be a part of this. Now, one more thing is, I joined after BSc, this thing, my brother straight away joined from PUC. So he was 1 year senior to me, younger brother was 1 year senior to me in MMC. I was this thing. So, but then I contested our assistant secretary election. But all my brothers classmates only voted and I got elected like that. So really life is always this thing, enjoyable. I'm really, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think it's time we wind up. We are gone past 2 hours, and I thank all the speakers for their excellent contribution. And I think that their experience has been very useful for a lot of people.
ஒரே ஒரு விண்ணப்பம்.
சொல்லுங்க
டாக்டர், நான் வந்து ஆக்சுவலா 99 MMC தமிழ் மீடியத்துல இருந்து வந்த ஸ்டூடெண்ட். ஸோ 2 தம்பி இறந்ததுனால நான் காலேஜ் டிஸ்கண்டினியூ பண்றேன். நம்ம MMC எனக்கு ப்ரொஃபஸர் ஹெல்ப் பண்ணி நான் இன்னைக்கு டாக்டர் ஆன ஒரு ஸ்பீச் தான். டாக்டர் கனகசபை, டீன் டாக்டர் மோகன சுந்தரம், சுதா சேஷன் மேம் அண்ட் அவர் அப்ப விசியா இருந்தவங்க என்னுடைய மைக்ரோபாலஜி ப்ரொஃபஸரா இருந்தாங்க 2003. ஸோ 4 பேர் சேர்ந்து என்னுடைய, அதாவது காலேஜ் ரீஃபண்ட் கட்ட சொல்லிட்டாங்க 14 lakhs. அதை ரீஃபண்ட் வேணாம், அந்த ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டுக்கு ரீசான்ஸ் கொடுப்போன்னு சொல்லி 99 பேட்ச், அதாவது நான் தான் MMCல 20 years MBBS ஆஃப்டர் 20 yearsக்கு அப்புறம் கம்ப்ளீட் பண்ண ஒரு பர்சன் இந்த 4 பேரால. ஸோ லாஸ்டா அப்படி இருந்து 2012 ஜாயின் பண்ணி 18ல வரும்போது 16ல வந்து சர்ஜரி பிரேக் ஆகிறேன். ஒரே ஒரு ஸ்டூடெண்ட் அடிஷனல் ஸ்டூடெண்ட், உங்களுக்கு தெரியும், பிரேக் பேட்ச்ல எக்ஸாம் எழுதுறதுக்கு இருக்கேன். ஸோ அந்த டைம்ல எக்ஸாம் டேட் எனக்கு சண்டே வருது, ஆனால் சாட்டர்டே எக்ஸாம் வந்து போஸ்ட்போன் மாத்திட்டாங்க. நம்ம ஆஃபீஸ் செக்ஷனை பத்தி தெரியும், பை சான்ஸ் மிஸ் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. சுதா சேஷன் மேம் விபி அவங்க என்ன பண்றாங்க, அவங்களும் ஓஜி விஜயா மேம் இருக்காங்க, இப்போ HOD-யா இருந்தாங்க. அவங்களுடைய ஓன் கார்ல சண்டே எங்க எக்ஸாம் நடக்குது விழுப்புரம் மெடிக்கல் காலேஜ்ல என்ன அவங்க ஓன் டிரைவ்ல சுதா சேஷன் மேம் ஆர்டர்ல அவங்க கொண்டு வந்து என்ன எக்ஸாம் எழுத வச்சு டாக்டர் ஆக்குனாங்க. ஸோ ஐ தேங்க்ஸ் டு டாக்டர் கனகசபை, வைஸ் சான்சலர் கீதாலட்சுமி மேம், விபி சுதா சேஷன் மேம். தென் இதுக்கெல்லாம் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் என்ன ரீஜாயின் பண்றதுக்கு ஸ்டெப் எடுத்த டாக்டர் மோகன சுந்தரம் அண்ட் ரகுமணி சார், அர்த்திங் சர்ஜரி ப்ரொஃபஸர் அண்ட் ஆல்சோ எனக்கு சீனியரா இருந்த இப்போ ஆர்த்தோ அண்ட் மெடிசன் HOD சார் இருக்கிற என்னுடைய காலேஜ் சீனியர். அதான் நான் UG ஜாயின் பண்ணுவோம், 9 PG இருந்தவங்களாம் நான் ரீஜாயின் பண்ணும்போது அசிஸ்டன்ட் ப்ரொஃபஸர் கம் ப்ரொஃபஸர் எனக்குரிய 17 பேர் MMCL. ஒரு பையனை வந்து ஸோ நம்ம MMCல இருந்து டாக்டரா வெளியே போவோம் விடக்கூடாது. ஏன்னா நான் ஜாயின் பண்ண 99ல 2001 2003ல 2 தம்பி சூசைடு. ஸோ நம்முடைய MMC வந்து ஸோ வெக்ஸ் ஆகி விட்டுட்டு வெளியே வந்துட்டேன். ஸோ 10 இயர்க்கு அப்புறம் என்னுடைய ஹிஸ்ட்ரி எடுத்து எப்படி கண்டுபிடிச்சாங்கன்னு தெரியல. கீதாலட்சுமி பிசியா இருக்கும்போது அவரு சார் சுமந்த் சாருக்கு சொல்லணும் நான். அவர் வந்து ஆக்சுவலா டிவி வர்றயால இருக்காரு. அவரு தான் ஆக்சுவலா இதை வந்து எப்படி ட்ரிபியூட் பண்ணாங்கன்னு எனக்கு தெரியல. அவரு வந்து இந்த ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டை கண்டுபிடிங்க, என்ன பிரச்சனை, கவுன்சிலிங் கொடுக்குன்றாரு. டாக்டர் வந்து திருநாகரசு என்னுடைய காலேஜ் கிளாஸ்மேட்டோட அப்பா, அவர்கிட்ட கூட்டு போறாரு. அப்பதான் சாரை பாக்குறேன். ஐ திங்க் அடையாறுல மறந்துட்டாரு நினைக்கிறேன். எனக்கு காஃபி வாங்கி கொடுக்குறாரு. ஒரு ட்ரௌசர் தான் சார் போட்டுன்னு இருந்தேன், ஒரு ட்ரௌசர் போட்டுருந்தா சார் வந்து டிவி, எனக்கு டாக்டரா தெரியாதுங்க, டாக்டர் பக்தவச்சலம் கூட்டு போனார் வாஸ்குலர் சர்ஜன் திருநாகரசு கிட்ட. அப்ப இவர் வந்து இன்ட்ரோ ஆகிறார், தம்பி நீ சைக்காட்டிஸ்ட் போகக்கூடாது, என்கிட்ட ஒரு 10 நிமிஷம் பேசுனா அடையாறு பிரிட்ஜு இப்பதான் புதுசா கட்டியிருக்காங்க, அப்பெல்லாம் வந்து ஒரு சின்னதா இருக்கும் ஒன் வே அப்பயே. அந்த பிரிட்ஜு ஒர்க் நடக்கும் போது ஒரு ட்ரௌசர்ல இருக்கேன், நான் ஊர்ல இருந்து செஞ்சி பக்கம், ஊர்ல இருந்து ஒரு ட்ரௌசர்ல தான் சார் வந்தேன் பஸ்ல சென்னைக்கு. இவர் மீட் பண்ணி ஒரு டீ வாங்கி கொடுத்துட்டு ஒரு 10 நிமிஷம் பார்த்துட்டு ஒரு சின்ன லெசன் கொடுக்குறாரு. தம்பி 2 பேர் இறந்துட்டாங்கன்ற, இது மாதிரி நிறைய தம்பி இறப்பாங்க, அவங்கள நீ டாக்டரா இருந்தா அட்லீஸ்ட் உன் ஊர்ல காபந்து பண்ணலாம்ல. மோரோவர் என்னை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் என்னன்னா, என்னோட தம்பி தான் சார் எங்க ஏரியாவில் என்னுடைய யூனியன்ல ஒன்றியத்துல சூசைட் அட்டெம்ப்ட் ஏறக்குறைய 17 சைக்காட்டிஸ்ட்டை வச்சு ஃப்ரீ கேம்ப்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன், ரோட்டரி மெம்பரா இருக்கேன். கனகசபை சாருக்கும், ஏன்னா கனகசபை சாரோட அவர் ஃபார்மசிஸ்ட், ஆக்சுவலாக எம்டி ஃபார்மகாலஜி, என் ரூம்மேட் ஒருத்தர் எம்ஃபார்ம் பண்ணாரு, அவருக்கு கைடா இருந்தார், அவரு தான் இந்த நியூஸ் அவர்கிட்ட கொண்டு போறாரு. ஸோ இது மாதிரி 14 லட்சம் கட்ட சொல்லிட்டாங்கன்னு. அப்புறம் மயிலவான சார்கிட்ட பேசி அவர் ஆக்சுவலாக அப்போ ரிட்டையர்ட் ஆயிடுறாரு. அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்த விசி 3 பேரும் நம்ம சுதா சேஷன் மேம் தான் ரொம்ப தேங்க்ஸ் சொல்லுவேன், ஏன்னா அப்போ அவங்க ரிஜிஸ்டர் இருந்தாங்க. தென் விசி நம்ம விபியா இருக்காங்க, நான் டிகிரி முடிக்கும் போது, டிகிரி வாங்கும் போது அகைன் அவங்க வந்து அங்க எம்ஜிஆர் யூனிவர்சிட்டி போயிட்டாங்க. ஸோ என்னுடைய 17 டாக்டர்ஸ் எம்எம்சிஎன் சேர்ந்து ஒரு டாக்டரை வந்து இன்னைக்கு சொசைட்டில வெளியே கொண்டு வந்திருக்காங்க. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கிராஜுவேட் ஃப்ரம் தமிழ் மீடியம் கவர்மெண்ட் ஸ்கூல். அதனால ஆனா இந்த பெரிய விஷயத்துல லாஸ்டாவது இவர் டாக்டர்னு எனக்கு தெரியாது, டிவி வர்ணாளர் நிறைய பிடிக்கும், கிரிக்கெட் கான்டெஸ்ட் தூர்தர்ஷன்ல வின் பண்ணியிருக்கேன், அவர்கிட்ட 100 rupees வாங்கியிருக்கேன், ஊர்ல கிராமத்துல பார்த்து ஃபோன் பண்ணி. அவரை ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் மீட் பண்ண அந்த அடையாறு டீ சாப்பிடும்போது, நல்லா கை கால் வச்சுக்கின்னு பிச்சை எடுக்கிறவனா திருடுறவனா வாழறான், அப்படி இருக்கும்போது நீ ஏன் இவ்வளோ இப்படி கவர்மெண்ட் ஸ்கூல்ல படிச்சிருந்தோம், உங்க அப்பா ஒரு பியூசி படிச்சவரு டாக்டர் அன்னைக்கு வாய்ப்பு இல்லைன்னு ஒரு ஏறக்குறைய ஒரு 30 நிமிஷம் பேசினார் சார். சுந்தர் சார் ஒரு
just two lines from my side, sir. Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you,
sir.
That is the merit of the MNCs. In short,
claps to Suman.
Yeah.
யாரோ எப்பயோ பண்ணது, நாங்கெல்லாம் இப்ப எதிர்பார்த்த நேரத்துல எங்களுக்கெல்லாம் பாராட்டு வருது. உண்மையில நாங்க எதிர்பார்க்கவே இல்லை, பேரே மறந்துச்சு, அப்படி பண்ணமான்னு கூட ஞாபகம் இல்லை. பட் இருந்தாலும்
செந்தில்குமார் சார், என்னோட நேம் செந்தில்குமார், செந்தில் சொல்லுவாங்க ஆக்சுவலா.
நல்ல பெரிய டாக்டர்.
Thank you.
Just 2 lines from my side. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. Actually, as a member of student council, as currently studying in the college, நீங்கலாம் வந்தீங்கன்னா we will be ready to invite you, and then if you are coming as a group, we are a student council, as the students and other organizations are ready to set up an alumni association like that is functional in KMC or Stanley. Really we want to set up that. Definitely I think Bhaskaran sir, Suman sir will be coming up on that. And then one more special request to Suman Raman sir is that sir is interested to take the MMC to the higher levels. Ranking la illa sir, engiyo poidum. One request, நம்ம MMC la பாத்தீங்கன்னா still அந்த radiologist இருக்கட்டும், biochemistry la இருக்கட்டும், everything is pen and paper, எல்லாமே pen and paper. You are already an IT huge jambon medical.
எல்லாத்தையும் கொடுத்தவங்க. That's a long story, I could go on for. We have actually supplied everything to the hospital. They have to use it. In fact, my classmate is there, Dr. Ramadevi. You talk to her. She is a professor of biochemistry.
Definitely, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we will end up with this note that the people who have been mentioned by Dr. Senthil Kumar from Senji are the ones who make the world a richer place to live, a good place to live. May people like them increase in number. With this note, I thank all the speakers and all the participants for making this a wonderful meeting, and I'm learning plenty from everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Radha, for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
all. Thank you
very much. Thank you. Bhaskaran will be coming up with jump ones from Grand Medical College next week. Please tune in. We'll like to listen to the history of Grand Medical College. Thanks again. Thank you. Bye. Good night.